The shuttle descended through the artificial atmosphere of the council station, and Jiwan pressed her face against the viewport. She had seen pictures, read reports, watched videos, but nothing prepared her for the reality of it. The station was massive, a ring of metal and light that could swallow Earth's moon. Ships of every imaginable design docked at its ports. Some were elegant curves of silver. Others were brutal angles of dark metal. A few looked like they had been grown rather than built. First time seeing it in person? Commander Haiyan asked from the seat beside her. He was a large man, built like the wrestlers from the old country, with calm eyes that missed nothing. First time off Earth, actually, Jiwan admitted. She was young for a diplomatic attach, only 32, and she knew some people questioned why Ambassador Myray had chosen her for this mission. But Myray had been clear. They needed people who could see humanity with fresh eyes, who remembered what it felt like to be small in a big universe. The shuttle docked with a soft thump. The airlock cycled, and then they were walking through corridors. That had been built by species humanity had only known existed for 15 years. The welcome ceremony was held in a vast chamber with a ceiling that showed the stars beyond. Representatives from 24 species stood in their designated areas. Jiwan recognized some from her studies. The tall, elegant Shirani with their 4 arms. The aquatic Quellan in their water-filled environment suits. The massive, stone-like Targish who barely moved. And there, at the center podium, stood High Mediator Velthra of the Krillian Empire. She was terrifying. 8 feet tall, covered in chitinous plates that gleamed like polished jade, with 4 arms ending in claws that could punch through steel. Her head was angular, insectoid, with compound eyes that reflected light in unsettling ways. When she spoke, her voice came from a translator that made it sound like grinding metal. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Velthra said, and somehow Jiwan knew she was not actually welcoming them at all. "We gather to evaluate your species for potential inclusion in the Galactic Coalition. This is a great honor. Many species wait centuries for this opportunity." Ambassador Myray stepped forward. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, with gray hair and a gentle smile. But she had been a negotiator during the resource wars, and Jiwan had seen her stare down generals without flinching. "We are honored to be here, High Mediator," Myray said. "Humanity looks forward to learning from the elder species and contributing what we can to the greater good." "Contributing," Velthra repeated. The word seemed to amuse her. "Tell me, Ambassador, what exactly can humanity contribute? You have no natural armor, no weapons. Your technology is primitive. Your ships barely faster than light. Your soldiers die from injuries that would be minor inconveniences to a Krillian warrior." The chamber fell silent. Jiwan felt her cheeks burn. Around the room, she saw other species watching. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed to agree with Velthra. "We contribute our perspective," Myray said calmly. "Our creativity. Our determination." "Determination?" Velthra's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Determination does not stop claws. Creativity does not deflect plasma bolts. The galaxy is not a safe place, Ambassador. It is filled with predators and dangers. Your species evolved on a gentle world, protected by your atmosphere, your magnetic field. You are, forgive my bluntness, a prey species playing at civilization." Haiyan's hand tightened on his datapad. Jiwan saw his jaw clench. But he said nothing. That was not his role. The ceremony continued, but Velthra's words hung in the air like poison gas. During the dinner that followed, Jiwan found herself seated near a group of Draxian traders. They were reptilian, with scales that shifted color, and they spoke in low hisses about humanity. "Soft skins," one said. "No scales. No claws. How did they even survive their own evolution? I heard, another replied, that they wear artificial armor because their skin tears like wet paper. Jiwan wanted to argue, but she knew it would accomplish nothing. Instead, she ate her food and listened. It was during dessert that Velthra made her proposal. Ambassador Myray, she announced loudly enough for the entire hall to hear. I have a suggestion. In 3 days, the hunt trials begin on Craft 7. It is a tradition among warrior species to test themselves against the megafauna of that world. Perhaps your security team would like to participate? It would give the council a better understanding of human capabilities. The room fell silent again. Every eye turned to the human delegation. Miray's smile never wavered. The hunt trials are for warrior species, as you said. Humanity does not pretend to match the physical prowess of the Krillians or Draxians. Of course not, Velthra said smoothly. That is why we provide equipment. Powered armor. Energy weapons. Even humans should be able to survive with such advantages. It was an insult, wrapped in an offer, wrapped in a challenge. Jiwan saw exactly what Velthra was doing. If humans refused, they looked weak. If they accepted and used the equipment, they proved they needed technology to survive. If they accepted and failed, humanity's application to the coalition would be quietly rejected. We will consider your offer, Myray said, and provide our answer tomorrow. The dinner ended shortly after. Back in their quarters, the human delegation gathered to debate. It's a trap, Doyan said. He was their xenobiologist, a thin man with nervous hands. I've studied the fauna of Craft 7. The Grimjaw stalkers alone weigh half a ton and hunt in packs. The Titan ox has killed dozens of hunters over the years. Even with powered armor, it's incredibly dangerous. If we refuse, we look weak, Jiwan argued. Everything Velthra said will be confirmed in the eyes of the council. Better to look weak than to have our people killed, Myray said quietly. I'll go, Hyen said. Everyone turned to look at him. He had been silent until now, standing by the window and looking out at the stars. I volunteer for the hunt trials. Commander, this isn't a military operation, Myray said. This is politics. Everything is politics, Ambassador, Hyen replied. And sometimes the best political statement is showing what you can do instead of talking about it. He turned to face them. Velthra thinks we're weak because we don't have claws or armor. She doesn't understand what made us strong. And what is that? Myray asked. We learned to survive without them, Hyen said simply. Later that night, Jiwan found Hyen in the observation deck. He was doing exercises, slow and controlled, preparing his body. You really think you can survive down there? She asked. I think I have to try, he said. He finished his set and looked at her. Do you know what Velthra told the Shirani ambassador at dinner? I heard it on the security feed. She said humans are prey species pretending to be predators. She said we would need combat mechs just to walk in the forests of Craft 7. Maybe she's right. Jiwan said quietly. Maybe, Hyen agreed. But I don't think so. My grandfather used to take me hunting in the mountains back home. He taught me something important. He said the wolf is stronger than the man. The bear is bigger than the man. But the man is still alive, and the wolf and bear are endangered. He asked me why that was. Why? Jiwan asked. Because the man refused to quit, Hyen said. Because when the wolf got tired, the man kept running. When the bear gave up, the man kept tracking. Strength isn't just about claws and armor. Sometimes it's about outlasting everything that wants to kill you. He returned to his exercises. Jiwan watched him for a moment, then left to inform Ambassador Myray of his decision. The next morning, Commander Hyen formally volunteered for the hunt trials. A civilian xenobiologist named Myong, who had grown up hunting in the Korean mountains, volunteered to join him. Velthra accepted their participation with what might have been satisfaction. As she walked away, Jiwon heard her tell her aide, "The Softskins will learn their place soon enough." Jiwon hoped desperately that Haiyan knew what he was doing, because in 3 days he would be dropped into one of the most dangerous environments in known space, armed with nothing but primitive weapons and human stubbornness. She just hoped that would be enough that the transport ship dropped through Craft 7's atmosphere like a stone through water. Haiyan sat strapped into his seat, feeling the gravity press against his chest. 1.3 times Earth's standard. Heavy, but not crushing. He had trained in higher gravity during his military service. Across from him, Mayong looked pale but determined. The younger man had been a wilderness guide before joining the xenobiology team, and he had killed a bear once with nothing but a knife when it attacked his hiking group. That experience had made him volunteer for this insanity. "You still have time to back out," Haiyan said over the roar of re-entry. "So do you," Mayong replied with a weak grin. The ship leveled out. Through the viewport, Haiyan could see the forest below. Trees that looked like twisted towers of green and purple, their canopy so thick it was almost black in places. Rivers that cut through the landscape like silver scars. And somewhere down there, the creatures that had killed trained warriors from a dozen species. The ship landed in a cleared area where the hunt trials would begin. As the ramp lowered, Haiyan got his first breath of Craft 7's air. It was thick, humid, tasting of vegetation and something else. Something wild. 10 participants stood in the clearing. Haiyan recognized most of the species from his briefings. 3 Krillians, their armor gleaming. 2 Draxians, scales shifting nervously. A Targesh, moving like an avalanche given purpose. A Quellan in a specialized environment suit. 2 others he did not recognize, and 2 humans, looking very small and soft by comparison. Velthra stood on a raised platform, her forearms spread wide. "Welcome, hunters, to Craft 7. For 3 days, you will survive in this wilderness. You may bring only primitive weapons. No energy shields. No powered armor. No communication devices except for emergency. Extraction." She gestured to a table laden with weapons, spears, knives, bows, axes, all made from materials that would not give an unfair advantage. "The predators of this world are many," Velthra continued. "The Grimjaw stalker hunts in packs. 6 legs, diamond-hard claws, jaws that can crush steel. They are ambush predators, and they are intelligent. The spine serpent drops from trees. The thunder lizard shakes the ground when it walks. And the Titan ox," she paused for effect. "The Titan ox has killed 47 hunters in the history of these trials. It fears nothing. It attacks everything. And it has never been killed by a single hunter alone." Jiwon's voice crackled in Haiyan's earpiece. She was watching from the orbital command center, along with the other non-participants. "You don't have to fight any of those things. Just survive. 3 days. "Understood," Haiyan murmured. The hunters selected their weapons. The Krillians took massive spears that looked like trees. The Draxians chose claws that fit over their natural ones. The Targesh took nothing, being a weapon itself. Haiyan selected a simple spear, well-balanced, and a knife. Mayong took similar equipment plus a bow. "The humans take the smallest weapons," one of the Krillians observed loudly. Perhaps they realized their limitations. Velthra's mandibles clicked. "The trial begins at sunset. You have until then to prepare. Choose your starting positions wisely. The forest does not forgive mistakes." The hunters dispersed. Haiyan and Mayong moved together into the forest, away from the others. The undergrowth was thick, the air was heavy, and every shadow seemed to hide teeth. "We need to find water," Myong said, "and high ground. Somewhere we can see threats coming." They moved carefully, and Hyen was struck by how different this was from any terrain on Earth, yet how similar the principles remained. Watch where you step. Listen for warnings. Trust your instincts. 2 hours into their exploration, they heard the first scream. It came from the north, cut short with terrible suddenness. Hyen and Myong froze, listening. Then came the sound of something large moving through the forest, and the panicked shouts in a language Hyen's translator rendered as Draxian. "One down already," Myong whispered. They found a rocky outcrop as the sun began to set. It gave them a view of the surrounding forest and a defensible position. As darkness fell, the forest came alive with sounds. Howls, roars, things moving that they could not see. "First night is always the worst," Myong said, trying to sound confident. "Predators are curious about new prey. They test you." He was right. An hour after full dark, they heard something approaching their position. Heavy breathing. The click of claws on stone. Hyen raised his spear, every muscle tense. The Grimjaw stalker emerged from the darkness like a nightmare made flesh. 6 legs, each ending in claws that sparked against the rock. A head that was mostly jaws, filled with teeth. Eyes that reflected their small fire-like coins at the bottom of a well. It was not alone. 2 more appeared, circling. "Pack hunters," Myong breathed. "They're testing us, looking for weakness." Hyen did not move. He held his spear ready and met the lead Grimjaw's eyes. It was a technique his grandfather had taught him. Show no fear. Be the predator, not the prey. The Grimjaws circled for 10 minutes. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, they melted back into the darkness. Testing, as Myong said. They would be back. Morning came with mist and the sound of something dying in the distance. Hyen and Myong ate their rations and planned their day. "We need to keep moving," Hyen said. "Staying in one place makes us targets." They descended from their outcrop and moved deeper into the forest. Around midday, they found signs of the Krillian hunter Velthra had sent to demonstrate proper technique. There was blood on the trees, blue and thick, and drag marks leading into a cave. "The Grimjaws got him," Myong said, examining the scene. "Pulled him right off his feet. His armor didn't help." "Because armor makes you confident," Hyen said. "Confidence makes you careless." They gave the cave a wide berth and continued. By evening of the second day, they had encountered 3 more predators. A spine serpent that Myong killed with an arrow before it could drop on them. A thunder lizard that they avoided by staying downwind and moving slowly. And another pack of Grimjaws that they drove off with fire. Jiwan's voice came through the earpiece. "You're doing well. The Draxian team has already been extracted. 1 dead, 1 injured. The Tarjish killed 2 Grimjaws, but is showing signs of fatigue. The Krillians are. They're struggling. Velthra is not happy. Why are we doing better than them?" Hyen asked quietly when they made camp that night. "You're smarter," Myong said simply. "They're stronger, tougher, but they rely on it. They fight the forest. We're working with it, using the terrain, avoiding fights we don't need to take. My grandfather used to say that the best hunter is the one who comes home alive, not the one who kills the most prey." The second night passed with more probing attacks. The predators were learning that these 2 soft-skinned creatures were more dangerous than they looked. Dawn of the 3rd day came with a sound that made the forest fall silent. A roar, deep and primal, that Hyen felt in his bones. "What was that?" Myong asked, his face pale. Hyen already knew. He had read the briefings. Titan ox. They found the tracks an hour later. Each footprint was bigger than Hyan's entire body. The trees along its path were pushed aside or broken. This was not a creature that moved through the forest. It moved over it, through it, as if the forest itself was an inconvenience. "We need to go the other way," Mayong said. "Right now." But before they could move, they heard crashing. Getting closer, fast the Titan ox emerged from the tree line like a mountain deciding to walk. 30 feet tall at the shoulder, covered in mineral deposits that made it look like living stone. Horns that could gore through starship hulls. Eyes that saw them and decided they were either threats or toys. Mayong stumbled backward, his ankle catching on a root. Hyen heard the snap. "Run!" Mayong shouted, trying to stand and failing. The Titan ox lowered its massive head and charged. Hyen stepped in front of his injured companion and raised his spear. Above them, he heard Ji-Wan shouting for emergency extraction. He heard Vel'Thra's voice, sharp with surprise, but Hyen was not listening to them. He was watching the Titan ox, watching how it moved, how it breathed, looking for any weakness in something that should not have weaknesses. The creature thundered forward, and Hyen stood his ground. At the last possible moment, he dropped his spear. He was going to fight this thing with nothing but his bare hands, because sometimes strength was not about weapons. Sometimes it was about refusing to quit, even when quitting was the only sane option. The Titan ox charged like an avalanche given purpose and rage. Hyen could feel the ground shaking beneath his feet. Each footfall of the creature sent shockwaves through the earth. Behind him, Mayong was trying to drag himself away on his broken ankle, but there was nowhere to go. The clearing was too open. The forest too thick to escape through quickly in the orbital command center. Ji-Wan was screaming into her communicator. "Extract them. Extract them now." Vel'Thra stood beside her, all forearms crossed, watching the scene with her compound eyes. "The shuttle cannot reach them in time. The Titan ox moves too fast. This is why I warned against soft-skin participation." "You wanted this," Ji-Wan said, her voice shaking with fury. "You wanted them to fail." "I wanted them to understand reality," Vel'Thra replied. "The galaxy is not kind to the weak." On the ground, Hyen watched the Titan ox close the distance. 80 tons of muscle and rage. Horns that gleamed like polished metal. Eyes that showed no intelligence, only instinct and aggression. This was not a creature that could be reasoned with. It was a force of nature that happened to be alive. Hyen had dropped his spear. The weapon was useless against something this size. It would be like trying to stop a tank with a toothpick. But he was not defenseless. He had spent 37 years learning what his body could do. He had trained in martial arts since he was 6. He had served in the military. He had survived situations that should have killed him. And most importantly, he had learned from his grandfather that sometimes survival meant doing the impossible because the alternative was death. The Titan ox lowered its head. Those massive horns aimed directly at Hyen's chest. In 2 seconds, he would be crushed, trampled, gone. Hyen watched, waited. His heart was pounding, but his mind was clear. He saw everything in sharp detail. The way the creature favored its left side slightly. The scar tissue around its left eye. The way it breathed, heavy and labored. This was an old animal. Powerful but not invincible. At the last possible moment, Hyen moved. He did not run away. He ran forward and to the right, toward the creature's scarred eye. The Titan ox's head swept past him, missing by inches. The wind of its passage threw him spinning, but he had expected that. He used the momentum, rolling with it. Coming up on his feet, the Titan ox skidded to a stop, confused. Its prey should have been dead, should have been crushed. Instead, the small creature was still moving. What is he doing? one of the Krillian observers asked in the command center. "He's studying it," Doyan said quietly. The xenobiologist was leaning forward, watching intently. "Look at how he's moving. He's testing its reactions." The Titan Ox turned, faster than something that size should move, and charged again. This time, Hyen dove left, but not far enough. The creature's shoulder clipped him, sending him tumbling through the air. He hit a tree hard enough to crack ribs and fell to the ground. "He's injured," Jiwan said. "Extract him." "The shuttle is 3 minutes out," Pilot Sumin reported from her cockpit. "I'm coming as fast as I can." 3 minutes. An eternity when a Titan Ox wanted you dead. Hyen pushed himself up, tasting blood. His ribs were broken. His left arm was not working properly. But he was alive and conscious. That was enough. The Titan Ox was not charging this time. It was walking toward him slowly, head lowered, as if it finally understood that this prey was different. That it needed to be careful. Good, Hyen thought. Careful means thinking. Thinking means hesitation. Hesitation means opportunity. He started moving in a pattern. Not running away, but circling, keeping just out of reach. The Titan Ox followed, turning its massive bulk to keep him in sight. Hyen led it into the thicker part of the forest, where the ancient trees grew close together. "He's making it work," Myong said from where he lay, watching through pain. "He's making it destroy its own stamina." The Titan Ox crashed through a tree as thick as a car. The impact barely slowed it. But it cost energy. It cost breath. Hyen kept moving, kept the creature turning, making it use its strength against itself. "This is insane," Velthra said in the command center. But she could not look away. For an hour, it continued. Hyen would get close enough to draw the creature's attention, then dance away. He made it charge through heavy timber, made it turn and turn again, made it climb over fallen logs and through thick undergrowth. Every movement cost the massive creature energy. And slowly, impossibly, it was working. The Titan Ox was slowing. Its breathing was heavier. It was bleeding from dozens of small cuts where branches had found gaps in its mineral armor. But Hyen was failing too. His broken ribs made every breath agony. His left arm was useless. He had cuts and bruises covering his body. He was running on nothing but will, and the knowledge that if he stopped, Myong would die. The sun was setting. The forest was falling into shadow. The Titan Ox made another charge, and this time Hyen was too slow. The creature's horn caught his leg, not a direct hit, but enough. Hyen felt his knee explode in pain and went down hard. The Titan Ox stood over him, breathing hard, victory certain. It raised one massive foot to crush the soft creature that had annoyed it for so long. Hyen looked up at his death and made a decision. If he was going to die, he would die fighting. As the foot came down, Hyen rolled toward the creature, not away. The foot slammed into the earth where he had been. He grabbed onto the leg, using his one good arm and his core strength to pull himself up. "What is he doing?" Velthra whispered. The Titan Ox tried to shake him off. Hyen held on. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. "When you hunt something bigger than you, you don't fight it from a distance. You get close. You get where its size becomes a disadvantage." Hyen climbed. The Titan Ox bucked and twisted, trying to dislodge him. He was thrown against its side hard enough to crack more ribs, but he held on. His fingers found purchase in the gaps between the mineral plates. His muscles, trained for exactly this kind of grip strength, locked tight. He climbed higher toward the creature's head. The Titan Ox slammed itself against a tree, trying to crush him. Hyen felt the impact shatter something in his shoulder, but he did not let go. "The shuttle is landing," Sumin reported. "It doesn't matter," Jiwan said, tears streaming down her face. He can't reach it. He can't even walk. But Hyen was not trying to reach the shuttle. He was trying to reach the base of the Titan Ox's skull, where he had seen a gap in the mineral plating. A place where the armor had cracked and never fully healed. The creature was thrashing now, confused and exhausted and in pain. It had never had prey climb onto it before. It did not know what to do. HYEON reached the gap. It was small, barely wide enough for his hand. But it was there. He forced his fingers into it, feeling the hide beneath. The Titan Ox roared, the sound so loud it made Hyen's ears ring. He pulled himself higher, got his other hand into the gap. The Titan Ox was spinning now, trying to throw him off. The world became a blur of motion and pain. And then Hyen found what he was looking for. The pressure point at the base of the skull. The place where the spine met the brain. He had seen it in the medical scans Doyon had shown them. Every creature had it. A vulnerability. He pressed down with all his remaining strength. The Titan Ox's legs buckled in the command center. Every being was silent. They watched as the human, broken and bleeding, rode the Titan Ox down to the ground. They watched as the massive creature tried to rise and failed. They watched as it finally collapsed, not dead, but immobilized. And they watched as Commander Hyen, using nothing but his bare hands and a will that should not exist, climbed down from the fallen Titan and collapsed beside it. The shuttle landed. Medical teams poured out. Mayong was shouting directions through his pain. Sumin was coordinating the extraction. Velthra descended to the planet's surface for the first time in her career as a mediator. She walked across the clearing to where Hyen lay, barely conscious. She looked down at the human, then at the fallen Titan Ox, then back at the human. How? She asked. Just that one word. Hyen opened his eyes. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth. But he smiled. Because I had to, he said simply. The medical bay of the orbital station smelled of antiseptic and alien technology. Hyen lay in a bed designed for beings larger than humans, feeling very small. His body was a map of pain. 3 broken ribs, fractured knee, dislocated shoulder, countless cuts and bruises. The doctors, both human and alien, had worked on him for 6 hours. You should be dead, the Shirani doctor had told him. Her forearms moved with precise grace as she checked his readings. The forces you endured would have killed most species. Your bones should have shattered completely. Human bones are good at not shattering, Hyen had replied, his voice weak. We evolved to fall down and get back up. Now, a day later, he was awake and aware. Mayong was in the bed next to him, his ankle in a regeneration cast. The younger man had barely stopped talking about what he witnessed. You climbed a Titan Ox, Mayong said for perhaps the 20th time. You climbed it, with broken ribs, and you took it down with your bare hands. I got lucky, Hyen said. But he knew it was not entirely luck. It was training. It was understanding. It was refusing to accept that something was impossible just because it seemed impossible. The door to the medical bay opened. Velthra entered, and both humans tensed. The Krillian mediator moved slowly, as if uncertain. Behind her walked Jiwan and Ambassador Myray. Commander Hyen, Velthra said. Her translator made her voice sound less harsh than before. I have come to apologize. Hyen tried to sit up. Myray gestured for him to stay down. Apologize for what? Hyen asked. For my ignorance, Velthra said. She moved closer, her compound eyes studying him. For my assumption that strength could only take one form. For believing that soft skin meant soft spirit. I have been a mediator for 37 years. I have evaluated 214 species. And I have never been more wrong about a species than I was about humanity. She turned to the wall display, where footage of the battle was playing on repeat. The galactic news networks had been showing it constantly. Hyen watched himself dodge the first charge, saw himself get hit by the creature's shoulder, watched himself climb onto the beast. I have shown this to xenobiologists across the council, Velthra continued. They are all saying the same things. Things I should have known. Things I did not consider because I was blinded by my own prejudice. What things? Jiwan asked. Velthra gestured at the screen. Humans are persistence predators. On your world, you evolved not to be the fastest or strongest, but to outlast everything else. Your cooling system, this sweating that seems so inefficient, allows you to regulate temperature better than any species we know. You can run for hours in heat that would kill a Krillian. She rewound the footage to where Hyen was climbing. Your shoulders. They have more range of motion than any species in the council. You can throw objects with accuracy we cannot match. You can hang and climb in ways that are impossible for us. My armor, my strength, it makes me powerful. But it also limits me. I cannot grip as you grip. I cannot hold on as you hold on. Doyan entered the room, carrying a datapad. The analysis is complete, he said, excitement in his voice. Commander Hyen, you exerted a grip strength of over 200 kilograms per square centimeter during the climb. For over 3 hours. The Titan Ox weighs 83 tons. The forces you endured should have torn your muscles from your bones. Why didn't they? Hyen asked. Because human tendons and ligaments are incredibly strong, Doyan explained. Stronger than they should be for your muscle. E-mass. You evolved to throw things, to hang from branches, to climb and fight and hold on. Your hands are evolutionary weapons that most species don't have. The endurance is what surprises us most, Velthra said. The Titan Ox was fresh. You were injured. By all logic, you should have collapsed from exhaustion within minutes. Instead, you fought for 3 hours. My grandfather would fight for 3 days if he had to, Hyen said quietly. It's not about being strong. It's about being too stubborn to quit. Velthra's mandibles moved in a way that might have been a smile. Stubbornness. Yes, that is very human. But it is also very effective. She turned to Ambassador Myray. I have sent my report to the Council. I am recommending humanity for full membership, not provisional status. And I am volunteering to serve as the Krillian ambassador to Earth, if you will have me. Myray raised an eyebrow. That is quite a change from believing we are prey species. I was wrong, Velthra said simply. And I have learned that being wrong is an opportunity to become right. If I am to serve the Council well, I must understand humanity. And I clearly do not. Over the next few days, the galaxy reacted to the footage. The response was overwhelming. Some species were impressed. Others were disturbed. A few were frightened. The Targish ambassador sent a formal message. We have fought Titan oxen with weapons, with armor, with the strength of stone. This human defeated one with flesh and will. We would know more about these creatures, called humans. The Shirani philosophers wrote essays about the nature of strength and the danger of assumptions. The Draxians requested training exchanges, wanting to learn human tactics. Even the Quellen, who lived in water and rarely cared about land-based species, sent observers. But the most interesting reaction came from ordinary beings across the galaxy. The footage became viral, as humans would say. Young Krillians watched it and questioned whether armor made them strong or dependent. Draxian soldiers studied Hyen's movements, analyzing how he used momentum and positioning. Targesh warriors, who prided themselves on never retreating, watched a human who retreated constantly, yet still won. Jiwan visited Hyen every day as he recovered. On the 5th day, she brought news. The Council is voting tomorrow. she said, on whether to accept humanity as full members. Ambassador Myray thinks it will pass, but it's not certain. Some species are arguing that your victory was an exception, not the rule. That one human doing something extraordinary doesn't mean all humans are capable. They're right, Hyein said. Not every human could do what I did. But you did do it, Jiwan said. And that matters. It shows what's possible when humans refuse to give up. Hyein looked at his hands. They were wrapped in regeneration bandages, healing from the abuse he had put them through. Hands that had no claws. No natural weapons. Just fingers and thumbs and the ability to grip tight and never let go. You know what I was thinking? Hyein said. When I was climbing the Titan Hawks, when every part of my body was screaming at me to let go. What? Jiwan asked. I was thinking about my grandfather. About the stories he told me. He lived through the resource wars. Saw terrible things. Lost everything. But he survived. He taught me that humans are special, not because we're strong, but because we survived everything that tried to kill us. Ice ages, plagues, wars, predators. We kept going. We adapted. We refused to die. He looked at G1. That's what I want the galaxy to know. Not that I'm some kind of hero, but that every human carries that same refusal to quit. We might not have armor or claws or scales, but we have something that might be better. We have the ability to look at something impossible and say, I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. The next day, Velthra brought news. She found Hyein in physical therapy, working to rebuild his strength. The Council has voted, she said. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Coalition. Not provisional. Not probationary. Full membership with all rights and responsibilities. Hyein stopped his exercises. Because of what I did? Partly, Velthra admitted, but also because of what you represent. You showed us that there are many paths to strength. That evolution creates diversity, not just in form, but in capability. The Krillians are strong because of our armor. The Draxians because of their regeneration. The Targesh because of their stone-like bodies. And humans because of your endurance, your adaptability, your refusal to accept defeat. She moved closer. I want to understand that. I want to learn how you do what you do. Will you teach me? Hyein smiled. I'll try. But fair warning, the first lesson is learning how to fall down without giving up. I am willing to fall, Velthra said. If it means learning to stand as humans stand. 3 months after the hunt trials, Earth looked different to Jiwan, not physically. The cities were the same. The mountains and oceans unchanged. But something invisible had shifted. Humanity walked taller now. They knew they belonged among the stars. She stood in the new Galactic Council Embassy in Seoul, watching the construction of the first joint human-alien training facility. Krillian engineers worked alongside human architects. Draxian security experts studied human tactics. Even a few Targesh had come, curious about persistence training. It's strange, isn't it? Velthra said, joining her at the window. The Krillian mediator had been on Earth for 2 months now, learning everything she could about humanity. 6 months ago, I thought your species was weak. Now I watch Krillian soldiers learning to run marathons. They complain constantly. Jiwan laughed. Running marathons is supposed to be uncomfortable. That's the point. Krillians do not like being uncomfortable, Velthra admitted. We prefer to be strong enough that discomfort cannot touch us. But I am learning that strength, which cannot endure, is not true strength at all. Hyein entered the room, walking without a limp now. The regeneration technology had healed his physical injuries, but Jiwan could see the changes that went deeper. He moved with quiet confidence, not arrogance, just certainty. Ambassador Myray wants to see us, Hyein said. something about the new starship. They took a transport to the orbital shipyard, where Earth's first proper interstellar vessel was being completed. It was not the largest ship in the galaxy, not the most advanced, but it was built with both human and alien technology, a cooperation that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Ambassador Myray waited for them in the observation deck, along with Elder Counselor Thren, the head of the Galactic Coalition. Thren was from a species called the Vosani, beings of energy contained in crystalline structures. His voice came from a translator that made it sound like chimes. "Commander Hyen," Thren said, "it is good to see you recovered. Your actions on Craft 7 have resonated throughout the galaxy in ways you cannot imagine." "I just did what I had to do," Hyen said, uncomfortable with the attention. "That is precisely why it matters," Thren replied. "We have received over 4,000 applications from various species requesting to train with humans. They want to learn your persistence hunting techniques, your endurance training, your psychological resilience." "I'm not sure I'm qualified to teach that," Hyen said. "You are more qualified than you know," Velthra said. "I have been studying human history. Your wars, your explorations, your disasters. Every time your species faced extinction, you adapted. When the ice came, you learned to make fire and clothing. When predators hunted you, you learned to hunt them back. When disease struck, you created medicine. You are a species defined by adversity overcome." Myray gestured to the starship below. "This vessel will be crewed by beings from 15 different species. Humans will work alongside Krillians, Draxians, Shirani, and others. It is the first truly integrated ship in Coalition history." "What's its mission?" Jiwan asked. "Exploration," Thren said. "To seek out new worlds and new civilizations. To expand our understanding of the galaxy. And to demonstrate that cooperation between species is possible." He turned to Hyen. "I would like you to serve as the human liaison on this mission. Your presence would be symbolic. The human who showed the galaxy that strength takes many forms." Hyen was quiet for a moment. "I'm a soldier, not a diplomat." "You are both," Myray said gently. "And you are a teacher, whether you accept that title or not. Every time someone watches that footage, they learn something about persistence, about refusing to quit, about facing impossible odds with nothing but will." Over the following weeks, preparations continued. Hyen found himself training crews from different species, teaching them not combat but survival. How to conserve energy, how to read an opponent, how to push past the point where your body says stop. The Krillian soldiers were his biggest challenge. They were so used to relying on their natural armor that the concept of endurance seemed foreign. "Why run when you can walk?" one asked during a training session. "Why exhaust yourself when you are strong enough to crush threats?" "Because strength runs out," Hyen explained. "But endurance doesn't. If you can outlast your enemy, you win. It doesn't matter how strong they are if they're too tired to lift their arms." He made them run, made them climb, made them do exercises that their bodies were not designed for. They complained. They struggled. But slowly, they began to understand. "This is terrible," one Krillian soldier told Velthra after a particularly hard session. "I hate every moment of it." "But you finished," Velthra observed. "You wanted to quit. Your body demanded you quit. Yet you continued." "Because Commander Hyen would not let us quit," the soldier said. "No," Velthra corrected. "Because you chose not to quit. That is the lesson. Not that humans are special, but that the choice to continue is available to all of us." Jiwan watched these transformations with fascination. She had been documenting everything, preparing a report on humanity's first year in the Galactic Coalition. The changes were remarkable. Trade agreements had been signed. Technology exchanges initiated. cultural programs established. But more importantly, attitudes had shifted. Humanity was no longer seen as weak. They were seen as resilient, as survivors, as beings who could endure. You changed everything, Jiwan told Hyen one evening as they watched the sunset over Seoul. One action, one impossible fight, and suddenly humanity matters. It wasn't just me, Hyen said. Mayong was there. The medical teams, Pilot Sumin, Ambassador Myre, everyone who refused to accept that humans were lesser. But you were the one who climbed the Titan Ox, Jiwan said. Because I had to, Hyen replied. Because Mayong was injured, and I couldn't let him die. That's the thing people miss when they watch the footage. They see me fighting a monster, but I was just protecting my friend. That's what humans do. We protect each other. We refuse to leave anyone behind. The launch day arrived with ceremony and celebration. The new starship, named the Unity, floated in orbit above Earth. Its crew of 150 beings from 15 species prepared for departure. Hyen stood on the bridge, wearing the uniform of the Coalition fleet. It felt strange. He had been a soldier, been a security officer. Now he was something new, an example of what cooperation could achieve. Velthra stood beside him. Her role as Krillian ambassador to Earth now expanded to include this mission. Are you nervous? She asked. Terrified, Hyen admitted. I'm good at fighting and surviving. I'm not good at being a symbol. You are good at being yourself, Velthra said. That is enough. When I watch you train the crews, I see someone who cares more about their success than his own glory. That is the kind of leader the galaxy needs. The Unity's engines powered up. Girth fell away behind them. Ahead lay the unknown, the unexplored, the dangerous and wonderful mysteries of the galaxy. In his quarters that night, Hyen recorded a message for his family back on Earth. I don't know if what I did on Krath 7 was brave or just stubborn, he said to the camera. Probably both. But I've been thinking about what Grandfather used to say, that humans are special not because we're strong, but because we refuse to stay down when we fall. He paused, looking out the viewport at the stars. The galaxy is big, full of species that are stronger, faster, tougher than us. But I think we have something valuable to offer. We know how to endure. We know how to adapt. We know how to look at something impossible and find a way anyway. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs right now. Not more strength, but more persistence. Not more armor, but more determination. Not beings who never fall, but beings who always get back up. He ended the recording and returned to the bridge. The Unity was accelerating toward its first destination, a system that had never been explored. Dangers awaited, challenges, the unknown. But Hyen was not afraid. He had faced a Titan Ox with nothing but his bare hands and won. Whatever came next, humanity would face it the same way. They had faced every challenge in their history, together, persistent, refusing to quit. Back on Earth, in a classroom in Seoul, a teacher showed her students the footage of Hyen's fight. The children watched in awe as the human climbed the massive beast. What does this teach us? The teacher asked. A small girl raised her hand. That we shouldn't give up? Yes, the teacher said. But more than that, it teaches us that strength comes in many forms. Commander Hyen wasn't the biggest or the strongest, but he was determined. He was clever, and he refused to accept defeat. She paused, looking at the young faces before her. That is the gift of being human. Not that we're better than other species, but that we know how to fall down and get back up. And sometimes that makes all the difference. In the Unity's training room, Hyen led a mixed group of humans and aliens through exercises. They struggled. They complained. But they continued. Dot and Velthra, watching from the observation window, understood finally what made humans dangerous. Not their weapons, not their technology, but their absolute, stubborn, impossible refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. She had believed humans were weak, until one killed a Titan beast barehanded, and now she knew that weakness and strength were not opposites. They were perspectives, and humanity had taught the galaxy to see strength in an entirely new way. The Unity sailed onward, carrying its crew of survivors and seekers toward the unknown. Behind them, Earth spun in the darkness, home to a species that had climbed from caves to stars through nothing but persistence and will. And ahead, the galaxy waited, full of challenges that would require exactly the kind of strength humanity had always possessed. The strength to endure, the strength to adapt, the strength to face the impossible and say simply, I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. That was the human gift to the stars. And the stars, slowly, were learning to appreciate it.